Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Sangeeta Mehta and you're watching my channel, My English Magazine. This is a gender role in literature. This is MA question. MA second semester paper 2. Romanticism and gender literature. Gender roles in literature. Literature is a powerful instrument that allows authors to either reinforce or subvert gender roles specific to one time and place. Now I explain to you. In the past, certain books negatively affected individuals' perception of themselves in several ways by promoting strict gender roles and stereotypes, by disciplining those who didn't fit into the established norm, by influencing how people of different genders could participate in the world of literature as writers, readers, and characters. Due to these factors, literature served as a backdrop for the emerging of gender criticism. This field of study had a significant impact on how people perceived gender roles. Gender criticism is an extension of literary criticism, focusing on how culture use symbols to define and impose the traits of a particular gender on a person. Here are some of the things that it addresses. Gendered language, for example, it includes using masculine pronouns he, him, his to refer to people in general. This tendency occurred as a result of the historical patriarchy, where being a man was a norm and a woman was marked as the other. Choice of characters. Male characters often took the leading role, establishing their masculinity and physical power. Female characters had to accept authority without any choice of freedom and independence. Perception of the author's gender. Men writers had serious advantages in telling their own stories. In contrast, women's writing was considered immoral, treated with bias, and harshly criticized. As a result, they had to publish under male pseudonym to have a chance to professional acceptance among writers. Gender stereotype in literature. Literature had a significant impact on the promotion of gender stereotype. For a long time, history books only contained biographies of men and ignored stories of women, as female authors were rare. Most books that featured women put them in stereotypical roles. Analysis of such text can help us single out several categories of female stereotyping. We will write a custom easy especially for you. Get your first paper. Yeah, now I explain to you. The Charming Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. Linda is a giving wife of who never gives up on her abusive husband Willie and always supports him. Beautiful and seductive Pamela Fish filter in Anthony powered a dance to the music of time in infantant. The officers with her seductive looks and beauty, emotionally trepidant, Gustave Flaubert, braver. The titular character is dissatisfied with the Bygore's society she lives in and the social status that didn't choose women as an object of loving. The fisherman and his soul, Oscar wild writers about a fisherman who fall in love with a beautiful mermaid, a pure and innocent creature with golden hair. Gender stereotyping also led to a himself view of masculinity in literature. This in turn had a negative impact on how society raised boys when were often portrayed as dominant, authoritative, competitive, and aggressive. This depiction put a lot of pressure on men and prohibited a wide range of emotional expression. Reverse gender role in literature. In an age when men were expressed to be strong and deceive, and women passive and submissive, Shakespeare raises questions about the standard portrayal of gender in his play Macbeth. The makes a submissive man and his dominant wife the two main authorities. He depicts two people who are unwillingly to accommodate themselves to society expectations. Shakespeare's merged femininity and masculinity in his characters to show that people of each gender could possess both sets of traits. Modern literature has a more liberated approach to the subversion of gender roles, taking cues from Shakespeare and other great authors. Representation of women in literature. In the following sections, we will discuss how the representation of female characters in literature has evolved throughout history. We will also look into examples of how women authors were marginalized by the era in which they were lying. Their vision and courage had a significant impact on the literary world and beyond. Women in medieval literature. Throughout the medieval period, women were treated as a second class citizen and their needs were largely ignored. Despite the suppression, many literary works included women characters. We will write a custom essay specifically for you for only So if we analyze literary text from that period, we will find common female archetypes of medieval society. Here are some of the most prominent ones. The vision is a pure woman whose primary function is to get married. The mother is a woman who does everything to support her children and her man. The witch is a wise, non-conforming, or unusually beautiful woman who is published for her otherness. The whore is a woman considered lover, that man deviant and unworthy of having a job. One of the example of an archetypal female character in medieval literature is grandmother from Beowulf. She superb society's ideas by protecting her son who is a foe of humankind. Women in Gothic literature. Gothic authors always female characters to break free of stereotypical constraints. It also helped to add depth and suspense to a plot. There are two prominent female roles in Gothic literature: a predator and a victim. The predation is dangerous, yea, powerfully attractive, according to an article on ResearchGate. This role is connected to pain-pleasure paradox in Gothic literature, which is the endless search for happiness that prevents one from obtaining it. The victim is vulnerable and fragile. This role gives the male hero someone to save. Women who fill the role are often able to sympathize and monstrous. Gothic writers often blurred the line between the two types. Usually, they did it to show the tragedy of women trapped in their gender roles. For example, the Yellow Wallpaper by Carlotte Perkins Glimens is a story about female badness caused by the patriarchal oppression. Many Gothic women writers were able to portray domestic entrapment and female sexuality in interesting and expressive ways. Authors such as the Bronte sisters, Mary Shelley, and Anne Radcliffe played a central part in popularizing women's writing. Strong women in literature. World literature has given us a variety of strong female characters. These fictional women took a radical stance for themselves and broke through the conventional boundaries of gender. Have a look at the examples of literature most inspiring women below. Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Matilda from Matilda by Rhoda. Elizabeth is a confident woman who would rather sacrifice financial security than be stuck In a loveless marriage, Elizabeth takes pride in herself and calls men out of their rude behavior. A 6-year-old girl stands up for herself while maintaining her optimism and innocence. Born into a cruel and uncultured family, Matilda teaches herself how to read by the age of 4 and finds her strength in books. Black women in literature. Black women writers first appeared in 1859 as a part of a general renaissance of black literature. Writing becomes a way to voice their rejection of slavery and racism, as well as their claim of freedom and equality. In the mid 1800s, Harriet Jacob incidents in the life of a slave girl became an early example of a black woman's strength over oppression. In the 20th century, a growing number of black women artists emerged throughout the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Black women's literature inspired many people worldwide and had a major impact on the consciousness of African American women. Toni Morrison's slave novel Beloved became the most influential work of the African American literature of the late 20th century. Maya Angelou memory. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings inspired generations of 21st century women writers. Gender roles in literature example. In the following sections, we will unravel some examples of traditional gender roles from famous literary works. This analysis will help you examine your understanding of masculinity and femininity from a different angle. Gender and feminism in the yellow wallpaper. Charlotte Gleeman's Gothic tale, The Yellow Wallpaper, was an early feminist indictment of Victorian patriarchy. The author gives an account of a woman driven to madness by a Victorian rescue. According to the article from the conversation, rescues were periods of inactivity prescribed to women with nervous condition. This therapy was prescribed to Charlotte Gleeman herself. Although the autobiographical aspect of the yellow wallpaper is compelling, it is a symbolism that adds a lot of meaning to the story. The narrator husband puts the hysteric wife in a nursery room with yellow paper. Charlotte Gleeman uses the analogy of entrapment of critic, the position of women within the institution of the marriage. All in all, the constraints placed upon the narrator by her husband are that drove her insane. She is forced to become passive and repress her emotional state. The protagonist has no choice but to retreat into her obsessive fantasy, the only place she can control. So this is a question about the yellow paper. It is important. If you find this topic interesting, you can learn more from an article on themes in the yellow wallpaper. The yellow wallpaper, gender roles, codes. Yeah, this is also the question, and I explained to you in my another video, in my another article. My name is Sangeeta Mehta and you're watching my channel, My English Magazine. This is available on YouTube. Thank you very much.